The cold weather in the imperial city was more severe this year than in previous years. At 10:30 in the evening, Ning Qingqing got out of the car and couldn't help being shivered by the cold wind. She gathered the windbreaker on her body and walked towards the Lanyo Club. 20 minutes ago, she received a call from her boyfriend Shen Haiqian, saying that he had a stomachache after drinking, and asked her to bring him some medicine and take him home later. The Lanyo Club was opened by a friend of Shen Haiqian. Shen Haiqian came here often in the past few years, and Ning Qingqing also came several times, so he went to the upstairs Tingyu Pavilion with ease. As soon as I walked to the door of the private room, I saw the waiter who brought the wine come out of it. The waiter recognized her and nodded at her, so the door remained open. In the open private room, melodious singing came, accompanied by men's conversation and women's laughter. Only a male voice said, "Hey, this song sounds familiar." Another person laughed, "This is S.I. Looking's song when she debuted, right?" The man paused after he finished speaking, and his voice was a bit teasing, "Speaking of which, the people inside us have some relationship with S.I. Looking." The person who came before was interested, "Who?" Several other people said together, "Brother Qian, S.I. Looking is her ex-girlfriend." Talking about this kind of topic, men seemed to be unable to avoid gossip, and several people discussed, "Brother Qian grew up with S.I. Looking. They are childhood sweethearts. It's just that S.I. Looking went abroad to go to high school after graduating from junior high school, and the two broke up. After that, Brother Qian soon got together with Ning Qingqing in high school, that is, his current girlfriend. You will see Lao Chen in a while." At this point in the science popularization, one of them asked Shen Haiqian, who had been silent about it all the time, "Brother Qian, do you know that S.I. Looking is back today?" Outside the door, Ning Qingqing's hand holding the medicine bag tightened slightly. S.I. Looking, she has heard of this name before, but every time Shen Haiqian would casually say that she was just a girlfriend whom she talked with in junior high school. But she didn't know that they were childhood sweethearts. At this moment, Shen Haiqian's casual voice came from inside, "Really?" His friend obviously wanted to dig into his attitude. "Today the airport is crowded with her fans, it's super hot now, Brother Qian, do you still have contact with her?" Shen Haiqian said indifferently, "I haven't contacted you for a long time." Seeing that he seemed to have no feelings for S.I. Looking, another friend brought up the topic, "Brother Qian must love the incumbent more. Our sister-in-law is very nice, she is as beautiful as S.I. Looking, and she is absolutely devoted to Brother Qian." "Yes, sister-in-law is a nice girl." Another person said, "Brother Qian, when are you going to get married?" After saying a word, everyone was waiting for Shen Haiqian's answer, so his silence made the originally lively atmosphere suddenly stagnate. But the music on the TV just finished singing, and when switching to the next song, there was a short gap in the middle. This blankness abruptly renders the silence in the space somewhat awkward. Outside the door, Ning Qingqing's breathing froze, and her heartbeat was suppressed almost silently by the unexpected silence at this moment. Until, a man's calm and indifferent voice finally came from inside, "Look back." At this moment, Ning Qingqing felt that all the senses that had been lost just now suddenly returned to their original positions. After more than 20 seconds of depression, her heart exploded, pounding against her chest, and even her blood rushed to the top of the sky. But she has only one feeling: cold. It was as if the blood in the whole body was frozen into ice by the sound of looking back, and every inch of soil it flowed through was frozen into ice edges. Limbs became stiff, and she stood motionless in the doorway. The conversation inside is still going on. "Brother Qian, why are you so anxious to get married? You're only 26 this year? A man who gets married before the age of 30 is going to his own grave." "Ha ha ha, that's true. Anyway, sister-in-law and Brother Qian have been together for so long, so why would they still run away? Whoever runs away, our sister-in-law will not run away. After all, it has been so many years. It's almost 9 years now." I remember Brother Chien was with his sister-in-law not long after the first year of high school. Fuck, it seems to be. But didn't Brother Chien just break up with Si Looking at that time? We still remember that when Brother Chien heard that Si Looking was going abroad, he went abroad to find her before school started. Really? Brother Chien, Yu Shen's Haiqian interrupted several people, I don't remember long ago. After all, he seemed to be looking down at the time, wondering why Ning Qingqing hadn't arrived yet, so he took out his phone and prepared to send Ning Qingqing a message. At this moment, another waiter passed by and saw Ning Qingqing standing at the door of the private room, so he wanted to ask. Ning Qingqing reacted suddenly and shook her head at the other party. She took a deep breath and walked to the private room. The moment she stepped in, a relaxed and bright smile appeared on her face, as if it was another person who had faded from the blood just now. The chatting among the people in the private room was quiet for a moment because of her sudden stepping in. But soon, Shen's Haiqian had stood up. He walked up to Ning Qingqing, took her hand and sat down. Sensing that her fingers were a bit cold, she couldn't help frowning. Why don't you wear more? After all, he took the remote control and turned on the indoor heating and air conditioning. Ning Qingqing handed the medicine in her hand to Shen's Haiqian. Have you eaten? It's best not to take your stomach medicine on an empty stomach. Shen's Haiqian smiled, his beautiful eyes were full of tenderness at the moment. Well, it was a little padded just now. He is like this, when he is not smiling, he is fierce and unruly, but once he smiles, it is as if the spring breeze turns into rain. Ning Qingqing thought, she was first fascinated by such a pair of eyes. At that time, she had just transferred from another school and spoke with a heavy accent. It was Shen's Haiqian who gave her the initial warmth. Ning Qingqing was in a daze when she suddenly felt a wave of heat. She couldn't help feeling a little annoyed. Why did the aunt come a week earlier this time? I'm going to the bathroom. She straightened her back and walked straight out without any emotion on her face. Shen's Haiqian originally wanted to say that there was a toilet in the private room, but Ning Qingqing had already walked out and thoughtfully helped them close the door. There are all kinds of emergency supplies for guests at the service desk here. Ning Qingqing ordered a pack of sanitary napkins and walked to the bathroom at the end of the corridor. When passing through the door of a private room, the door over there was opened by someone, and Ning Qingqing had no time to take back her steps, and bumped into a person unexpectedly. Leaning back, she raised her hand subconsciously and grabbed the man's arm to stabilize her figure. Crack! The aunt's towel in her hand fell to the ground because she lost her grip. Ning Qingqing took a half step back quickly, and was about to bend over to pick up the thing that fell on the ground, but the person in front of her had already bent over first and picked it up. Then, Ning Qingqing saw a white and slender hand with well-defined joints. The man's nails were neatly trimmed, and there were 2 large characters written on the place where the thumb pressed down night use. For the sake of sanitation, the clubhouse provides customers with such individual packaging, so there is a line of words below the night uses awfully care for your heavy nights. Sorry. The man's voice was clean and clear, and he handed over the soft thing in his hand. His eyes instinctively looked at the things in his hands. The big word Yayong fell into his eyes as clear as frost and snow. He froze for a moment, then seemed to realize what it was, and quickly moved his gaze upwards. In this way, he met Ning Qingqing's eyes again. The moment Ning Qingqing saw his appearance clearly, her eyes froze for a moment. Isn't this Shen's Haiqian's deadly enemy, Gu Yushan? He had been abroad before, but he returned home? After a short period of doubt, Ning Qingqing's mood was immediately replaced by the embarrassment of her toes digging on the ground, but her expression was very calm. It's okay, it's because I was walking too fast and didn't look at the road. After all, she still took the things calmly, nodded politely at Gu Yushan, and left quickly. Therefore, he didn't notice that the man was stunned for a moment when he saw her appearance. He turned his head, watched Ning Qingqing disappear around the corner, and then looked away. The mobile phone in his hand had stopped ringing, and Gu Yushin had no intention of answering the client's call, so he went straight back to the private room. The private room was very lively. Today was a meeting with some friends because of his return to China. Seeing him coming back, Fa Zioxin opened a bottle of wine and toasted him. He leaned on the sofa, picked up the wine glass, and took a sip. The image just now was still in his mind. "Brother Chen? Brother Chen?" Fa Xiao called him. "Damn it, Brother Chen, why does he look so slutty? You're not thinking about your sister, are you? How is it possible? I believe in women even if other people think about it, but I wouldn't believe in Brother Chen even if I beat him to death. No. Brother Chen's ears are red. Damn, Brother Chen, why did you go out and why did your ears turn red when you came back?" Several people surrounded Gu Yushin as if they had discovered a new continent. Gu Yushin frowned, and glanced coldly at everyone. However, the reddish tips of his ears made his usually powerful eyes lose half of their lethality. Looking at his appearance, several people came to a conclusion unanimously: "It's going to rain, my mother is going to get married, and our elder brother Chen is finally feeling springy. The author has something to say. The hole I wanted to open 2 or 3 years ago has finally been opened. Woohoo, do the little angels who don't make collections still remember me?" Rolling Fur comments wow. On the way to Shen's Haiqian's house, Ning Qingqing drove seriously while looking ahead, without saying a word all the way. "Qingqing, are you unhappy?" A man's voice came from beside him. His voice was lower than usual after drinking. "No." Ning Qingqing said, and turned on the car radio. Shen's Haiqian usually likes to listen to the financial channel, and Ning Qingqing is also used to listening to financial channels on the road with him. At this moment, a report inside broke into the eardrum. Gu Yushin, the heir of the Gu Corporation, returned to China today. This may be a sign that the Gu Corporation will shift its focus to China. When Ning Qingqing heard this sentence, she subconsciously looked at the man beside her. Sure enough, when Shen's Haiqian heard the name Gu Yushin, his brows frowned, and the temperature in the car seemed to drop by 2 degrees. She was about to change the channel, but Shen's Haiqian pressed her hand, and the man said coldly, "I want to hear what news he has." Ning Qingqing didn't move anymore, and continued to drive, but the man she saw at Lanyu Clubhouse today involuntarily appeared in her mind. It's strange to say that she met Gu Yushin when she was in high school, and she never paid attention to him after he went abroad. She didn't expect that she could still recognize him at a glance after not seeing him for several years. Different from Shen's Haiqian's fierce and unruly facial features, and sometimes lazy, sometimes flamboyant temperament, Gu Yushin's eyebrows are more refined, and his body has a unique temperament, like the snow on the top of a mountain, clear and untainted by dust. Because of the complicated history of the wealthy family, and the fact that Shen's Haiqian and Gu Yushin are similar in age, the two have been compared since they were young. Gradually, the two have almost become incompatible. Of course, this is the information Ning Qingqing got from Shen's Haiqian unilaterally. At this moment, the cell phone of the man beside him vibrated. For some reason, Ning Qingqing subconsciously glanced at the screen that Shen's Haiqian had just unlocked. It was the WeChat friend verification interface. There was a pink round profile picture on it. Ning Qingqing was a little far away and couldn't see the WeChat name clearly. Shen's Haiqian by his side took a look. Without doing anything, he just threw the phone aside without any emotional fluctuations. He seemed to be a little tired after drinking, and he leaned on the seat and closed his eyes to rest. Just like that, all the way to Shen's Haiqian's community, the privacy here is very good. All are from the underground parking lot to the large flat floor of the owner's room. Ning Qingqing parked the car and handed Shen's Haiqian's bag to him. "Go to bed early at night." But the man didn't move. He held Ning Qingqing's hand. "Qingqing, what happened?" He tried his best to recall what happened today, but he didn't think of anything that would affect Ning Qingqing's mood, so he asked, "Are you feeling unwell?" Ning Qingqing nodded accordingly. "Auntie is here." Then don't go home, follow me to rest. Shen's Haiqian said, got out of the car and went around to Ning Qingqing's seat, leaned over to unbuckle the other person's seat belt, and stretched out his arms to hug him out. Ning Qingqing raised her hand to push her away, but her aunt was too weak when she came, and after a while of discomfort passed, Shen's Haiqian had already put her in front of the elevator. It was a little late, and it was not that she had never lived in Shen's Haiqian's apartment, so Ning Qingqing was too lazy to refuse, so she just went up with others. She went to the guest room to put down her bag, came out of the shower, and found Shen's Haiqian in her room. He held a bowl of brown sugar tea in his hand. Qingqing, does your stomach hurt? Drink this first. Under the light, the aggressiveness in the man's eyebrows and eyes turned into tenderness. Ning Qingqing took the bowl and drank it in 2 or 3 gulps. She wanted to wash the dishes but was stopped by the man. I'll do it later. After he finished speaking, he stretched his arms around Ning Qingqing's waist naturally from behind, his warm palms fell on her lower abdomen, and his chin rested on her shoulder. Tell me, Qingqing, why are you unhappy today? Suddenly wrapped in warmth, Ning Qingqing sighed from the bottom of her heart. Maybe she can communicate with him again, about them, about the future. After all, they have been together for 9 years, and Shen's Haiqian has treated her very well, and he has never done anything that made her feel uneasy. Haiqian, my 25th birthday is coming soon. Ning Qingqing looked into Shen's Haiqian's eyes from the mirror. It is said that 25 is a hurdle, it seems that 25 is not so young. Is it because of this that you are unhappy? Shen's Haiqian's low laughter fell into her ear, and he changed his hand to warm Ning Qingqing's stomach. In my eyes, our family Qingqing is the most beautiful, even in the future old and beautiful. Hearing him say old, Ning Qingqing asked subconsciously, then what do you think we will be doing after many years? Hearing this, Shen's Haiqian was in a daze for a moment, then kissed Ning Qingqing's side face under his eyes, not to mention old, we are still young. Ning Qingqing replied, her body was still warm, but the flame in her heart had gradually begun to extinguish. You drank alcohol today, go to bed early, I have to get up early tomorrow. She said, coming out of Shen's Haiqian's arms. Okay, Qingqing, good night. After the man said, he watched Ning Qingqing lie down, then turned off the light and closed the door. In the room, Ning Qingqing looked at the darkness and let out a breath slowly. Just as she was about to close her eyes, the phone rang continuously. Realizing that she forgot to turn off the phone, Ning Qingqing got up and picked up the phone, and saw that the high school class group that was relatively active when the group was first established a few years ago suddenly became lively. As soon as she clicked in, she saw a red envelope reminder. Perhaps because it was too late, her brain short-circuited, and when she realized it, Ning Qingqing had already clicked on the red envelope. 39.7 yuan. Such a big lucky red envelope is really rare, but Ning Qingqing's pupils suddenly tightened when she saw the head of the red envelope. If she read this avatar correctly, she had seen it on Shen's Haiqian's chat friend application interface 2 hours ago. A pink round profile picture, nicknamed Sunny. Ning Qingqing remembered that she had added friends to all her high school classmates, but this one was obviously a stranger. But without her going through the records, someone has already solved the identity of the other party for her. Ah, thank you, goddess. This is the first time I have received so many WeChat red envelopes. The goddess returns to the country to develop, and the classmate association will be set up to welcome the goddess. Beauty looking, when do you have time? We must attend on time to see the beauty of the goddess. Next, the sunny sky replied after sending dozens of red envelopes in a row, I can do it, but I still need to adapt to the time when I just returned to China, so my manager gave me a week off. Wow, it just so happens that the weekend is Teacher Sue's birthday. Shall we have a class reunion on that day? Celebrate the teacher's birthday, and welcome Luo Qing. The monitor said excitedly. The bottom one echoes. Sunny Sky also replied, okay, Saturday, I'll be fine that day. Seeing this, the squad leader directly informed everyone, students, at the class reunion at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, SI Looking's big star will participate. Everyone is eager to sign up. Ning Qingqing knew that almost all of her high school classmates were promoted directly from the junior high school, so many of them and SI Looking should be junior high school classmates. It is estimated that someone has the contact information of the other party, so they are drawn to this group. It's just that she doesn't go to her junior high school group. What's the purpose of coming to their group? Just when Ning Qingqing was about to leave the group chat directly, someone suddenly attacked her. Lulu, hey, Qingqing also received a red envelope? So Qingqing will definitely come on Saturday, right? Ning Qingqing hoped that time could go back 2 minutes, back to the second before she accidentally clicked on the red envelope. But it's a done deal, she can only reply, maybe I will go on a business trip, let's see when the time comes, and I will try to get there. Lulu said, we must fight for it. You haven't come to our school when SI Looking transferred to another school, but our current class girl can't miss the beauty party, right? She sent another message, oh, by the way, Luo Qing had a very good relationship with Senior Shen before, you should have heard Senior Shen mention it. Ning Qingqing snorted coldly, but replied with her hand, really? I haven't heard of it, so I'll ask Haiqian later. At this time, a classmate said, Luo Qing, I remember you talked to Senior Shen before. As soon as the words fell, the class group was completely silent for a moment. But soon, SI Looking came back with an unclear attitude, I haven't seen Haiqian in a few years, he must be more handsome. There was booing below. Ning Qingqing directly posted a photo of Shen's Haiqian in the group. In the photo, the man was wearing a crisp suit and tie, but he seemed to be turning his head to look at something. When the camera captured him, he was rolling his eyes. Haiqian claims that there are no dead angles at 359 degrees, and this is the only dead angle. After Ning Qingqing sent this sentence, she directly quit WeChat. Next door, Shen's Haiqian didn't know that his ugly photos were sent to the class group. He came out of the shower and was brushing his hair when his cell phone rang. It was a call from a stranger. Not many people knew his private mobile phone number, so he simply hung up. But the phone rang again. He picked it up with a frown, and there was already a bit of hostility in his eyes. Who is it? A gentle female voice came from inside, but the ending was very flat, showing that she was pretending to be close but reserved her identity. Qian, I am Luo Qing, I am back. Hearing this, Shen's Haiqian continued to wipe his hair, his eyes still full of indifference. Oh, Luo Qing, who is it? A low sigh came from the other end, and he continued, Haiqian, I saw your photo in the class group of Class 1, Grade 13. I haven't seen you for many years. You are indeed more handsome than before. Shen's Haiqian said lightly, are you on the phone? SI Looking said, I sent a WeChat friend to verify and pass it. I returned to China to develop, and there may still be a lot of cooperation in the future. Business. Shen's Haiqian said, let your manager add me as my secretary. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up. Okay. SI Looking said, meet the classmates. Shen's Haiqian had already hung up the phone. He remembered that he hadn't joined Ning Qingqing's class group, so he sent a message to Fa Xiao, pull me into your class group. Soon, news came one after another. Shen's Haiqian entered the group chat, and saw that his photo had been turned into an emoji a 359-degree man with no dead ends. You deserve it. Shen's Haiqian pressed his forehead and rubbed it, got up and walked to the next door. The door of Ning Qingqing's room was closed tightly, and there seemed to be no movement at all inside. He had no choice but to go back to the room, only to find that the class group was blown up because of his joining. Senior Shen is here? Senior Shen, our Saturday class reunion, are you coming too? Both Qingqing and Looking are going. Since Shen's Haiqian just came in, he didn't know that Ning Qingqing didn't agree to go to the classmate reunion at all, so he could only ask. Qingqing said she wants to attend. That Luu quickly responded, well, Qingqing said she was going on time, so the seniors are coming too. Shen's Haiqian responded, okay, send me the time and place. The author has something to say, hee. Shura field is scheduled. Don't worry, everyone, there must be a plot in the copywriting. The must be slapped in the face so that my mother can't recognize it. Thanks to the little angel who voted for me or irrigated the nutrient solution during 2022051613:29:13 20220517 hours 32 minutes and 3 seconds. Oh, thanks to the little angels who threw mines, the harder you work, the luckier you are. 3. Thanks to the little angel of irrigation nutrient solution, 2 bottles of hee. Thank you very much for your support. I will continue to work hard. The next day, Ning Qingqing and Shen's Haiqian went on a business trip together. Ning Qingqing studied finance and law at university, but after graduation, there were some changes in the Shen family. Shen's Haiqian needed her own people to watch over the contract, so she went to work in the Shen family as the company's contract specialist. Just in the morning, Haiqian called and said that there was a contract dispute between the group and the supplier that needed to be resolved. Ning Qingqing went there with the company's legal counsel, while Shen's Haiqian met the replacement supplier with the marketing department. The two of them have been very busy these 2 days, except for sending a good night at night, there is almost no contact. Although they both live in the same hotel, they have never seen each other. It wasn't until Saturday morning that Ning Qingqing finally negotiated and resolved the problem. She picked up the phone and was about to send a message to Shen's Haiqian, when the man appeared in her sight. His eyes were rare and a bit tired, but after seeing her, he handed her a bag first. Try the local snacks sent by the customer. Ning Qingqing took it over and asked, are you all done? Shen's Haiqian said, I heard from Special Assistant Wu that your side is also going well. Almost, it's all settled. Ning Qingqing said, when will we return to the Imperial City? Shen's Haiqian smiled, forgot what day is today. Ning Qingqing was startled, and then realized that today was April 11th, the day when Shen's Haiqian confessed his love to her. In the first year of high school, 1 month after Shen's Haiqian confessed, she agreed to be his girlfriend. Remember? The man helped her carry the briefcase. Let's go upstairs to pack our luggage. The plane will take off in 2 hours. It was after 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the two came out of the Imperial City Airport, and the driver was already waiting at the domestic arrival exit. Along the way, Ning Qingqing fell asleep unknowingly because she was also a little tired. When she woke up, she found that she was covered with a thin blanket, her head was resting on Shen's Haiqian's shoulder, and the man was also closing his eyes to rest. Mr. Shen, we're here. The driver stopped the car in front of a club. Ning Qingqing looked at the name of the clubhouse, feeling a little familiar for no reason, but couldn't remember where she had heard it before. Shen's Haiqian was in a light sleep, and opened his eyes when he heard the driver's words, are you here? After finishing speaking, he opened the car door and got out of the car, and then opened the door for Ning Qingqing. He took Ning Qingqing's hand into the clubhouse, and the waiter greeted him, Sir, do you have a reservation? Shen's Haiqian said, Private room no 103. Ning Qingqing had already sensed that something was wrong, and when the door of the private room was opened and they were focused by everyone in the private room, she finally knew where she had heard the name of this club. It was in the class group that day. Someone mentioned that this club was expensive, but at that time Ning Qingqing just glanced at it and didn't pay much attention at all. Wow, look who's here! The squad leader greeted him excitedly, Senior Shen, Qingqing, I'll be waiting for you. Ah, Senior Shen and Qingqing are here, hurry up, welcome. Ning Qingqing was enveloped by the rushing excitement, but she felt that all the enthusiasm seemed to be accompanied by a biting wind, which was cruel and ridiculous. What day is today? It's the day of the class reunion. And this class reunion is obviously organized by SI Looking. Just at this time, the woman who was singing in the private room suddenly turned her head and looked over. She had bright eyebrows, a scheming makeup, and delicate writing from her hair to her clothes. Maybe celebrities all have a very small photogenic face. SI Looking is like this. Her face is obviously smaller than the classmates next to her, and she also has a standard demeanor when she smiles. Everything is just right. Ning Qingqing just came back from a business trip today. Although she changed out of her suit and trousers, she still wore a casual sweater and jeans. She likes plain makeup when she is not at work, and she doesn't even bother to put on lipstick. His hair was messed up in a ponytail when he was sleeping in the car, and he had a briefcase with him on a business trip, but no handbag, so at the moment the phone was randomly inserted in the back pocket of the jeans, and white sneakers were under his feet. The man next to him was used to shirts and trousers. Although he didn't wear a tie, he still looked like an elite who could hold business meetings at any time. SI Looking in the private room quietly turned her eyes around Ning Qingqing, and then settled on Shen's Haiqian. She tightened her grip on the microphone slightly, stood up after a while, walked over with a smile. Student Shen, long time no see. She is 165 tall and wears high heels, much taller than Ning Qingqing who is 168. When she came here, Ning Qingqing recognized that SI Looking was wearing the C family's New Year's couture today. Hello. Shen's Haiqian's gaze was calm, but he just lightly fell on SI Looking, and quickly retracted it without any emotional fluctuations. The atmosphere seemed a bit awkward, until Luu came out, saw Ning Qingqing, immediately took her arm exaggeratedly, and introduced to SI Looking, this is Senior Shen's girlfriend Ning Qingqing, who is also a high school student in our class. Ban Huo. SI Looking seemed to see Ning Qingqing just now. She turned her eyes to Ning Qingqing, and stretched out her hand to Ning Qingqing. I have admired her name for a long time, she is really beautiful. Thank you. Ning Qingqing reached out to shake her hand, and said in a generous tone, Miss SI sings very well. SI Looking twirled her hair by her ears, and said with a smile, you can just call me Looking, we are all classmates here, so you don't need to see outsiders. Several people walked into the private room together. SI Looking's song had already been sung, so some students clamored to help Shen's Haiqian order a song. Shen's Haiqian turned to look at Ning Qingqing beside him. Qingqing, which song do you want to sing? But before Ning Qingqing answered, Luu had already ordered for the two of them, which happened to be You Are My Star sung by SI Looking and a male star. This song is almost a must-sing duet love song on KTV in the past 2 years, and there should be few people who can't know it. But in the next second, Shen's Haiqian raised his eyes, I don't know how to sing, you guys sing. Having said that, everyone seemed to smell something tricky, and the atmosphere became awkward again. Someone looked at SI Looking, and then set their eyes on Ning Qingqing. Compared with the real one, it seems that each has its own merits. SI Looking looks like an exquisite and beautiful princess now, but even though Ning Qingqing has no makeup, she still has a charm that cannot be found in well-dressed clothes. Many students in the class know that she is from the south. It is said that she grew up in a water village. When people sit there, they seem to have no sense of existence, but once they set their eyes on her, it is difficult for people to look away. It's like ink painting, which makes people peaceful and forgetful. That's a taste that can't be painted with any makeup. The song You Are My Star has already started to play, because no one is singing, and the accompaniment seems monotonous. Just as the atmosphere was getting weirder and weirder, the squad leader quickly ordered another duet, cut to it, and ended the situation with a smile. Senior Shen can't say no to this song, can he? Well, this meeting. Shen's Haiqian picked up the microphone. It's not the first time I sang this song with Ning Qingqing. The voices of the two have a low magnetic field and the other is as quiet as water, and they cooperate with each other tacitly. At the back, many students couldn't help applauding. So when the song ended, some classmates asked with a smile, Senior Shen and Ching Ching are so married, when are they going to get married? Such a sentence made everyone's focus on the two of them again. Ning Ching Ching didn't speak, her eyes were the mottled light and shadow on the big screen in front of her. In the light and shadow, the man in front of him seemed to become a little blurred. She heard Shen's Haiqian say, "Why are you always being asked about getting married recently? Make me mistakenly think that I am not 26, but 36. Everyone laughed. Yes, how can the crown prince of the Shen family get married so hastily? The classmate who spoke may have no intentions, but soon everyone's eyes fell on Ning Ching Ching. All the students present knew that Ning Ching Ching was transferred from the south to study in the imperial city. When she was in school, she wore plain clothes and her family background seemed to be very ordinary. She herself seems to have never mentioned her family members, so she probably can't do it at all. And even if he is really a middle-class person, his family background is very different from Shen's Haiqian's. But the girl was still calm and indifferent, as if she didn't hear anything. Some people watched the show, and some gloated, but soon everyone turned their attention to SI looking. Now that everyone has graduated, they know the importance of connections. Love triangles are certainly interesting, but holding SI looking's thighs is more important. Just then Ning Qingqing's cell phone rang. She took it out and found that it was from her best friend Jiao Xiaomian, so she went outside to answer it. Ching Ching, I just found out that you went to the classmate reunion with Senior Shen. You didn't want to go before? I knew you were going, and I worked overtime on a business trip to get it back this morning. Ning Ching Ching smiled and said, "It's okay, I came here temporarily." After finishing speaking, she explained the misunderstanding she had made in communicating with Shen's Haiqian. Jiao Xiaomian was filled with righteous indignation, so what does he mean? Doesn't he know that he should avoid suspicion? He brought you there specifically because he wanted to eat what's in the bowl and look at the pot. Wait for me to download, let's make a video. After all, he hung up the phone and quickly made a video call. Ning Ching Ching didn't have much appetite on the plane, and now she's a little hungry, so she went straight out of the clubhouse, planning to go to the opposite cake shop to eat cakes and have a video with her best friend. Tell me quickly, that SI looking is really the same as on TV? Are there obvious signs of plastic surgery on her face? Jiao Xiaomian asked impatiently. Ning Ching Ching walked and said, I didn't notice this, but, your sister and I have no idea that I will come out to meet my classmates today. With plain makeup and leisure, I look like a village girl in front of others. Jiao Xiaomian was immediately unhappy when he heard this. Ching Ching, are you so beautiful? Do you know what is hibiscus coming out of clear water and carved naturally? You can also make the sky beautiful like this. I can't control it through the screen. Ning Ching Ching was completely amused by her. Okay, let's get together when you come back. I don't care about SI looking, the problem between me and Haiqian has nothing to do with her, anyway, I'll tell you when we meet. Okay. Jiao Xiaomian pouted, come on, big beauty, I'm going to continue to catch up on the plan. Well, what? Ning Ching Ching said, and she had already walked to the door of the cake shop. She took a fancy to the kind of casual tiramisu she likes at a glance. Hello, help me get this Moonlight Treasure Box tiramisu. The clerk was embarrassed. Miss, this tiramisu was just bought by this gentleman. When Ning Ching Ching heard this, she realized that there was another man in the store, dressed in a formal suit, and even tied his tie properly, as if he had just come off the negotiation table. Surprise appeared in her eyes. It turned out to be Gu Yushan. Gu Yushan also looked over, his eyes met, he nodded slightly at her, and then said to the clerk, give the tiramisu to this young lady. The clerk looked at the two suspiciously, but nodded immediately, okay, sir, let's choose another one. If you buy it for your girlfriend, girls usually like this lime rum, and there is coffee cake on the bottom layer. Make a bottom, can you take a look? However, in the next second, the man said, "I don't have a girlfriend." Ning Qingqing turned her head in surprise, her eyes met Gu Yushan's again, he was looking at her. It seems to be explaining to her, "I bought it for myself to eat." The author has something to say, Gu Yushan, boys can't eat cakes? Never let the wife misunderstand. I'm single, I'm single, I'm single. Say important things 3 times. How many friends are watching? Leave a message and raise your hand. Thanks to the little angels who voted for me or irrigated nutrient solution during 202205171332:032051812:59:41. Thanks to the little angel who threw the mines, full of European spirit, good luck often comes. One small yellow, thanks to the little angel of irrigation nutrient solution, 2 bottles of Xiao Huang. Thank you very much for your support, I will continue to work hard. Oh! Ning Qingqing was stunned for a moment, and then quickly realized, then if you really like this tiramisu, we will share half of it. There are actually too many rectangular boxes, and Ning Qingqing can't finish them all by herself. Because it is not the kind with gelatin sheets, so the shape is more random, and it is not very convenient to pack. It's just that when Ning Qingqing asked, she regretted it a little. Although she knew who the other party was, Gu Yushan probably didn't know her, maybe he didn't remember bumping into her in the corridor that day. But Ning Qingqing remembered to take back the proposal before she came, so she heard the man say, "Okay." The ending sound rose slightly, and she seemed very happy. Well, he seems to really like this tiramisu. Are those 2 here to eat? The clerk said, "Shall I divide them into 2 boxes?" Ning Qingqing was very annoyed at her proposal just now, but it was done, so she could only sigh in her heart, but on the surface she said calmly, "Okay, thank you." The clerk had already divided the tiramisu into 2, put them on 2 plates, and handed them to the 2 respectively. There are very few diners in this store, and most customers just buy and leave, so there are only 2 small tables in the store. Ning Qingqing hesitated while holding her plate. She hasn't given the money to Gu Yushan yet, and it would be a bit embarrassing if she sat at the same table and talked about transferring the money, it seemed too close. However, the man had already sat down at one of the small round tables. He picked up a tissue and wiped the seat opposite him, and nodded to Ning Qingqing. "Oh, thank you." Ning Qingqing could only go over and sit down, then took out her mobile phone, "You just paid, and I will transfer my half to you." Gu Yushan seemed to hesitate for a while, and just when Ning Qingqing was about to explain that she could actually click to collect and pay, so that she would not need to add her friends and would not have privacy issues, the man had already opened his WeChat QR code and passed it over. Gu Yushan's WeChat avatar is an abstract geometric figure. Ning Qingqing thinks that she must have a brain twitch, even looking at this figure, she also thinks it looks like tiramisu. She opened her scan and clicked to add friends. In front of others, she was too embarrassed to choose the option of "Don't let him/her see me," so she clicked send directly. Gu Yushan passed over there in seconds, and Ning Qingqing transferred half of the price to him. After receiving it, Gu Yushan put away the phone and began to eat with his head down. He is dressed in business attire, which looks out of place in such a cake shop with fans, but the way he scoops up the cream, there is an inexplicable contrast. Ning Qingqing realized that she had stared at him for several seconds, she quickly looked away and ate her food silently. But at this moment, her cell phone rang, and it was Shen's Haiqian calling. "Qingqing, have you finished answering the phone? Why didn't I see you?" Shen's Haiqian's side was relatively quiet, obviously he should be in the corridor outside. "I was a little hungry suddenly, so I went across to buy a cake, and I'll be back soon." Ning Qingqing finished speaking, and glanced at Gu Yushan who was sitting opposite. She was suddenly a little curious, in Gu Yushan's eyes, is Shen's Haiqian his deadly enemy? Is there any real conflict between the two? "Stay where you are, I'll pick you up." Shen's Haiqian's voice quickly brought back Ning Qingqing's thoughts. Hearing this, she quickly stopped. It's okay, I'll finish eating right away, it's only 2 steps away, I'll just go up by myself. Just kidding. That day when Shen's Haiqian heard Gu Yushan's name on the car news, he reacted so strongly. If he saw him soon, God knows what would happen. Okay. Shen's Haiqian didn't insist anymore, but said, be careful, I'll wait for you in the clubhouse. Yet. After hanging up the phone, Ning Qingqing subconsciously glanced at Gu Yushan, who happened to raise his eyes too. Looking at each other, she smiled at him awkwardly, and continued to bury her head in eating the cake, and there was no communication between the two of them. It wasn't until she hurriedly finished eating that she got up, said thank you to Gu Yushan across the way, and walked quickly to the clubhouse. Back at the clubhouse, Ning Qingqing went to the bathroom first. After washing his hands, he heard the door of the compartment behind him being opened, and then, the face that Si looking had meticulously traced appeared in the mirror. What a coincidence! Si looking smiled at her. Listen to Haiqian, you just came back from a business trip today, and you came here before you could go home. Ning Qingqing raised her eyes, and looked at Si looking in the mirror. Well, so I didn't put on any makeup, I'm sorry. Si looking looked at Ning Qingqing's flawless face in the mirror without makeup. Her smile became a little stiff. Then you are very busy, tomorrow is his sister's 18-year-old common goffage ceremony, so you have to get up early. A common goffage ceremony for Shen's Haiqian's younger sister Shen Ziyu? Ning Qingqing didn't know at all. There was a sigh in her heart, and Ning Qingqing could think of a sentence: if someone can really use the people around you to attack you, it must be the people around you who gave them the opportunity to hurt you. Pulling out a piece of paper, Ning Qingqing dried her hands carefully, threw the paper into the wastebasket, and said in a generous tone, I don't know, his sister's birthday is tomorrow, they didn't invite me. After all, she left directly. Si looking watched the back of her leaving, and found that she didn't feel happy at all. Back in the private room, Ning Qingqing chatted with teacher Su for a while. He was still asked about his personal relationship, how he got along with Shen's Haiqian, and when he planned to settle down. Ning Qingqing suddenly discovered that in the year when she was about to turn 25, she was asked when she would get married more and more times. However, without exception, she was unable to answer. Because Shen's Haiqian never mentioned it, even though she felt that she had already hinted at it, the other party had no plans for it at all. Even if it is said to marry at the age of 30, at least there is such a sentence. And he. Afterwards, Ning Qingqing was in a sluggish mood at the party, and she almost fell asleep while leaning on the sofa. Shen's Haiqian originally thought that Ning Qingqing had agreed to come to participate, and when he saw this, he directly took her away. I'll go back to my apartment. Ning Qingqing said, Xiaomian will come back tomorrow, we have an appointment to go shopping. Okay. Shen's Haiqian nodded, it just so happens that I have something to do tomorrow. Is it just something? Ning Qingqing didn't expose it. When she got into the car, she even suddenly realized that she and Shen's Haiqian had been together for nearly 9 years, and the number of times he mentioned his family seemed to be countable on one hand. For the first time, Ning Qingqing seriously examined the future between them. A certain idea began to germinate in her heart for the first time. The next day, she woke up naturally after a good night's sleep, and came to the pedestrian street where she had an appointment with Jiao Xiaomian. The two had a hot pot together, went out to watch a movie, and visited a clothing brand that Jiao Xiaomian liked very much. At this moment, a female voice broke into my ears, with inexplicable arrogance, I don't know what's wrong with my brother, that woman just wants to marry into a wealthy family, and he hasn't broken up after talking for so many years. The sound came from the fitting room next to it, and there were obviously 2 people in it. The arrogant female voice continued, my brother was out of anger when he was with her, because he was in a bad mood when you went abroad, so he just found someone. He, after 9 years, he can bear it. When Ning Qingqing heard the word 9 years, she subconsciously frowned. At this time, a somewhat familiar voice sounded, Xiao, don't say that, I think your brother likes her quite a bit, it should be true love. True love? It's just to keep you outside to relieve boredom. The female voice sneered, Cinderella wants to marry a wealthy family, but she doesn't think it's reality, not a fairy tale. Otherwise, why did my brother never bring her to meet after talking for so long? What about the parents? It's not like you don't plan to marry her at all. Speaking of this, the female voice suddenly changed her tone, and said with a smile, Sister Qing, I still like you. Many of our classmates are also your fans, I want you to be my sister-in-law. Hearing this, Ning Qingqing would be living in vain if she didn't know who was inside. She held Jiao Xiaomian's arm who was picking out clothes on the other side, Xiaomian, let's change. Ah! Jiao Xiaomian didn't hear the conversation just now, and was a little confused. She held two skirts in her hand, one S and one M, and handed the M1 to Ning Qingqing, baby, I think this skirt is very suitable for you, let's try it, and wear it as twins in the future. Ning Qingqing looked at Jiao Xiaomian who was 7 or 8 centimeters shorter than herself, and asked, twins? Hey, don't bring such contempt for people. Jiao Xiaomian smiled, and took Ning Qingqing's hand to try it. And just at this moment, the door of the fitting room, which had been closed all the time, was pushed open. Shen Ziyu came out wearing the same red waist skirt. She looked in the mirror and said, it seems a bit big. I have to change to M. She usually wears M or L, and this skirt is a true size, maybe M can also be worn. Waiter, help me get a M. Shen Ziyu said, she was always defiant, and she would not set her eyes on other customers. But Si looking saw Ning Qingqing. She was wearing a mask and sunglasses today, and her expression was hard to see when she was fully armed. Sorry, we only have one size for each item in our store, and the M size is in the hands of this lady. The clerk hesitated. Following the clerk's words, Shen Ziyu finally set his sights on Ning Qingqing. Seeing it this way, there was a mockery in her eyes. Walking straight towards Ning Qingqing, she said arrogantly, the price of this dress is 12,000, which is more than a month's normal salary of a contract specialist, right? So if you want to buy it, do you have to swipe my brother's card? Her voice was not deliberately lowered, and she was all beauties, so all the eyes of the people around her were attracted to her. Suddenly, everyone's eyes became complicated. Jiao Xiaomian has a violent temper. Hearing this, he quickly guessed the identity of the other party, and was about to rush forward. However, Ning Qingqing held her back. Miss, wait a moment. After that, she entered the fitting room. Shen Ziyu had no idea what the other party meant until Ning Qingqing walked out of the fitting room. Suddenly, everyone's eyes brightened. The person in front of him is like a plain ink painting suddenly colored with color, elegant and bright. Without makeup, but with black hair and snowy skin, Shen Ziyu, who was wearing the same style next to him, looked like a bleak control group. If you like this dress, I'll give it to you. Didn't you say it's just to save money for your brother? Ning Qingqing said lightly, I hope you have a good time wearing it. The author has something to say, babies, in order to force myself to concentrate on coding, I changed to posting at midnight every day, and this time will be the same time from now on. Don't stay up late, everyone, wake up the next day and read it again, okay Ning Qingqing, say I'm Cinderella? Hee the heroine has an independent career, look at those scumbags who look down on us when we slap our faces. Gu Yushan who loves desserts, Qingqing, please take care of me, just give me tiramisu thanks to the little angel of irrigation nutrient solution, 1 bottle of Poria Cocos, thank you very much for your support, I will continue to work hard. Thanks to the little angels who voted for me or irrigated nutrient solution during 2022-051812:59:41 2022-051823:15:28 thanks to the little angel of irrigation nutrient solution, 1 bottle of Poria Cocos, thank you very much for your support, I will continue to work hard. After Ning Qingqing finished speaking, she went back to the fitting room and quickly changed the skirt. She handed over the skirt, Shen Ziyu's face flushed, and he didn't know whether to accept it or not. Because of this episode, Qiao Xiaomian lost the intention to continue visiting this store. She went directly to her circle of friends and posted a post. In the post, Shen Ziyu's shoes were photographed, but she didn't appear in the picture. The words "It's not scary to bump into a shirt, it's embarrassing whoever is ugly." After sending out, she was still a little upset, so she took Ning Qingqing to the milk tea shop downstairs. "Qingqing, I didn't say it, what do you think his family means? He actually said that you are with him because you want to marry a wealthy family? Hehe, do you need it?" Qiao Xiaomian bit the bobo in the milk tea. "You now ask Shen's Haiqian how he mentioned you at home." Qiao Xiaomian has a baby face, and when he is angry, his face is bulging, like a small puffer fish. Ning Qingqing couldn't help but poke the soft flesh of her cheeks. She felt unsatisfactory after poking once, so she poked again. "Hey!" Qiao Xiaomian was in a hurry, "You still have the mood to joke? Look at that si looking, who looks upright and generous on the surface, but actually wants to undercut her. I really want to tear off her mask so that her fans can take a good look at her. Look." Ning Qingqing stirred the milk pod on the top of the milk tea, took a sip, felt the sweetness spreading between her lips and teeth, and for some reason suddenly thought of Gu Yuchen, who was wearing a suit and eating dessert in a cake shop. She couldn't help laughing. On the opposite side, Qiao Xiaomian looked at her angrily. "It's true that the emperor is not in a hurry and the eunuchs are in a hurry. Okay, little Mian, I actually thought about it last night." Ning Qingqing said seriously, "I'm thinking about whether I can continue with Shen's Haiqian." It was the first time for Qiao Xiaomian to hear his best friend say such a thing. Bobo immediately forgot to chew and sat up straight to listen. Ning Qingqing said, "I have been with him for 9 years. We are familiar with each other's circle of friends, but we are very unfamiliar with our relatives. In fact, when I graduated, I wanted to take him to see my mother. After that, my mother came here for business trips twice. I also planned to ask him to have dinner together, but he said that he happened to have something to shirk. Yesterday at the class reunion, Si looking said that today is Shen Ziyu's 18th common goffage ceremony, but I found out that I didn't know. I said that I had an appointment with you today to go shopping, and he said that he happened to have something to do. Do you know? The moment he said something was the first time I really wanted to end it. Even if he didn't promise before, I didn't think about it. Because you know that my parents divorced when I was a child, and I followed my mother. My mother is a strong woman and usually has no time to take care of me. I grew up with my grandmother, and my grandmother is very close. When I transferred to Imperial City, my grandmother was not in good health, but she said that the educational resources in the small southern city were poor, and she insisted on letting me go. I didn't know that she was sick, so I passed. Until my 3rd year of high school, my grandmother was seriously ill. Shen's Haiqian secretly borrowed his father's name and arranged for a private plane to take me back, so that I could see my grandma for the last time. Ning Qingqing took a deep breath. Because of this, he was beaten by his father for the first time after returning home, and he couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. Qingqing Qiao Xiaomian held Ning Qingqing's hand, and she, who was always violent, didn't know how to comfort her best friend at such a time. So I have love and gratitude to him. Ning Qingqing scraped the edge of the milk tea and said, "But it will be my birthday soon, and I will ask for an answer before my birthday. I always want to be stable. If he has no plans for our future, I will choose to break up." Qiao Xiaomian looked at the determination in Ning Qingqing's eyes. She suddenly felt that her best friend actually looked soft, but every decision would be very powerful. Not knowing what to say for a while, Qiao Xiaomian picked up the milk tea and toasted Ning Qingqing. "Well, we can't spend all the time on one person, and we can't see the future. Then we need an answer, no matter what the result is, my best friend will accompany you. Okay. Ning Qingqing clinked glasses with Jiao Xiaomian. She picked up her phone and opened Moments. I'm reposting the moments you posted just now. After all, I went straight to find that it's not scary to bump into a shirt, whoever is ugly is embarrassed, click on the content to copy, and forward it. She didn't have a picture, just a line of text. It was incompatible with the circle of friends who often posted about work before, so a lot of curious comments came after just a while after posting. Yes, our big beauty Ning must be the one who dominates the crowd, so what are you afraid of? It's better for the whole world to clash together. So who is the unlucky ghost who bumped into my goddess today? Allow me to gloat for 10 minutes. Many of them are Ning Qingqing's classmates and friends from work when she was in college, until a comment caught her eye. Keith, you mustn't be the awkward one. Ning Qingqing was stunned when she saw the name, until she saw the geometrically stitched headshot. Well, it's tiramisu. Oh no, it's Gu Yushan. Gu Yushan actually commented in her circle of friends, and seemed to say something that praised her beauty. Ning Qingqing was shocked by this realization. After all, in Shen's Haiqian's previous description, Gu Yushan was a ruthless profiteer in the mall. But this profiteer would share a box of tiramisu with her in the cake shop, and would affirm her beauty in her circle of friends. Ning Qingqing thought for a while, and replied to Gu Yushan, "Thank you for your affirmation, I accept it with a smile." After that, she casually clicked on Gu Yushan's profile picture, and went to his circle of friends. Just as she guessed, the background pictures of Gu Yushan's circle of friends are all monochromatic buildings, which are not very easy to approach. And he posted very few moments, only some industry inquiries, and occasionally Gu's news. As soon as Ning Qingqing quit, she was taken aback because she suddenly had more than 20 comments. Go in doubt, and then understand what happened. At the top, Mr. Ning commented, "Have you clashed with someone else? I said earlier that I would hire a designer just for you, but you insisted on keeping a low profile." Just after this Mr. Ning commented, a bunch of old men who were usually out of touch in Ning Qingqing's address book appeared one after another. "Mr. Ning, this is the first time I saw you in the circle of friends. What kind of wind blows you away? Coming. Mr. Ning, my daughter is like this." So the following exploded. It turned out to be Ling Qunjin. Look at my note, why did I write Assistant Ning at that time? What a misunderstanding. Miss Ning, this is too low-key. I remember that Miss Ning called herself Mrs. Ning's assistant when we met last time. I said at the time, why is there such a good-looking assistant? Xiao Ning, don't be afraid, if you bump into someone else's shirt, then the embarrassing one must be someone else. What kind of clothes does Xiao Ning like? Uncle makes clothes. Later, Uncle asks his assistant to give you some outfits to play with. Ning Qingqing looked at the greasy speeches of these middle-aged uncles and rubbed her forehead with some headaches. Mr. Ning is her mother. When she just graduated from university, her mother took her to a dinner party, because she deliberately trained her and didn't introduce her identity. At that time, they joined this group of uncles, and they thought she was her mother's assistant. It has been almost 2 years since that dinner. These people have been lying dead in her circle of friends for so long, and today is the first time they have interacted with each other. Everyone is realistic, and Ning Qingqing is well aware of this. After shopping today, Shen's Haiqian didn't come to pick up Ning Qingqing, nor did he make a phone call. Ning Qingqing recalled that there seemed to be a similar situation before, and each time it was when Shen's Haiqian had a party with his family. There was no dream that night. Ning Qingqing went to the client's company the next day, and it was almost noon when she returned to the company. The legal department where she works is on the lower floor of the president's office. Ning Qingqing first went to the office to put away her bags and documents, picked up her phone, and wanted to see if Shen's Haiqian had sent her a message about having dinner together. The phone is clean, except for the routine good morning sent by Shen's Haiqian early this morning. Ning Qingqing didn't know if he had a meal or not, and she wasn't hungry at first, so she went to the tea room to make a cup of tea in advance, put it in the refrigerator to cool down, and then add milk to drink as milk tea. The office area here is quiet today. Her high heels walked on the carpet almost silently, so the two colleagues who were heating up their meals in the tea room did not notice Ning Qingqing's arrival. The whispered conversation broke into Ning Qingqing's eardrums. Our group is going to change its spokesperson recently, do you know that? Ha, that's what I was going to say. Everyone has arrived at our president's office today, and it is said that the contract will be finalized in 2 days. In such a hurry? Shouldn't the board of directors approve the change of spokesperson? I didn't hear the wind before. Hey, gossip, this spokesperson is different, because she is the ex-girlfriend of our president Shen. What do you mean? Mr. Shen has been with Ning Qingqing since high school, why did he find out another ex-girlfriend? I've also heard people say that Mr. Shen and that childhood sweetheart who grew up together have been together for a long time. Ning Qingqing met only after transferring to another school. It is said that Mr. Shen fell in love because of that one who went abroad and fell in love with him. Oh my god, isn't it possible that our lady boss has changed hands? Not necessarily. In short, let's see, think about it, we are in the contract department, and we actually signed the endorsement later, and the contract has to be sent to Ning Qingqing for review first. Tisk tisk, it's really a sure field. I've been wronged for Ning Qing, what a slap in the face. However, it depends on Mr. Shen's attitude whether to slap him in the face or not. You know, although one is the former Bai Yueg Wang, but after all these years, God knows who Mr. Shen is living in his heart now. That's true, but it has nothing to do with us, let's just eat melons. Just when the microwave oven dinged, the food was ready, and the two of them sat at the bar with their lunch boxes and started eating. Outside, Ning Qingqing withdrew her steps expressionlessly, took her mobile phone and went straight to the elevator, ready to go out for dinner. The elevator arrived soon. It wasn't Shen's Haiqian's exclusive elevator, but there were 4 people inside Shen's Haiqian, Shen's Haiqian's father, S.I. Looking, and S.I. Looking's manager. The author has something to say, well, come to ask for a wave of comments. Wow, is it a reminder to break up? Hurry up! Gu Yushan, today is another day to spare no effort to praise my wife. Happy 520 to the babies. Thanks to the little angel of the irrigation nutrient solution, 1 bottle when you sit and watch the clouds rise. The eyes of several people collided. Ning Qingqing stood where she was, looking at the 4 people in the elevator, and suddenly felt that there seemed to be an invisible wall between them. Shen's Haiqian and the others were inside the wall, while she was outside. All the emotional shocks were clamoring wildly, but she had already hidden all the emotions in an instant, and she didn't even reveal half of them in her eyes. Hello, Mr. Shen. Ning Qingqing nodded respectfully to Shen's Haiqian's father, Shen Yiwen, and then set her eyes on Shen's Haiqian. Her eyes were calm and unwavering. Just as she was about to say hello, her cell phone rang. Ning Qingqing quickly took out her phone from her bag, and was inexplicably relieved. She nodded slightly at the few people inside, took a step back, and signaled them to go first. So, S.I. Looking's manager, who was standing at the elevator entrance, pressed the button to close, and the elevator door closed beside Ning Qingqing. She went to the safe channel to answer the customer's call. Okay, Manager Zhang, we have the results here, and I will communicate with you as soon as possible. After finishing the call, Ning Qingqing stood in the safe passage and did not return to the office immediately. She stood for a while, and the phone rang again. This time it was Shen's Haiqian. Qingqing, I just met my dad when I returned to the company from the client, so I didn't have time to ask you to eat. Shen's Haiqian said, come down now, let's eat at your favorite one. Ning Qingqing didn't know why Shen's Haiqian could speak so naturally. She asked back, is it convenient for you to go over? Shen's Haiqian said, I was alone, my dad and the others went to the restaurant alone. So, Shen Yiwen and Si Looking went together? Sure enough, the family friends of childhood sweethearts are indeed different. Go and eat with them, I'm not hungry. Ning Qingqing said, I've ordered takeaway, and it will be delivered soon. Qingqing, are you angry? Shen Haiqian's tone became a little cautious, and he explained, I didn't know that Si Looking would come over, it was just a coincidence that I got off the elevator just now. Ning Qingqing believed in Shen Haiqian, just like what she said to Jiao Xiaomian, the problems between her and Shen Haiqian had never been related to a third party. It's just that the third party is like a demon mirror, which will clearly show the rift between them. If Shen Haiqian really had plans for the future, he would have called her directly just now. What Shen Haiqian cared about at that time was Shen Yiwen, not Si Looking. Not angry. Ning Qingqing didn't want to talk about these personal matters in the company. My birthday is coming soon, when the time comes, let's go back to school and take some pictures. Shen Haiqian heard that Ning Qingqing's tone was calm, so he was relieved. Okay, I'll invite a photographer to take pictures. After hanging up the phone, Ning Qingqing went to the bathroom to pat her face with water before returning to her seat. She picked up the desk calendar on the table and drew a circle on her 25th birthday. Counting with the tip of a pen, she found that there were only 9 days left. It happens to be 9, and it seems that every day of the countdown corresponds to the year she and Shen Haiqian have been together. Fair enough. She almost foresees the answer at that time, but after all, she still wants to give herself 9 days to reveal the final result. At this time, there was movement in the tea room. It should be that the 2 employees came over after eating. Ning Qingqing frowned instinctively, got up, and went to the elevator again. Meeting no one this time, she went straight to the lobby and walked out of the building. Not very hungry, and didn't know what to eat casually for a while, she was walking in the fast-paced financial street, and the whole world was in a hurry, only her footsteps were quite slow. At this time, a black business car passed by on the road beside her. The man sitting in the back row turned his eyes inadvertently, and saw Ning Qingqing walking by the side of the road. Stop! Gu Yushan said to the driver. The driver quickly pulled over and stopped slowly. From the corner of Ning Qingqing's eyes, she saw a car parked on the road next to her. She didn't pay attention to it, and she didn't have the heart to pay attention to it. How many 9 years can a life have? Sometimes making a decision sounds easy, but it actually means letting go of your past. She can't be really calm. In the car, Gu Yushan's hand that was on the door handle stopped, and the movement that was about to open the door also stopped. He just watched Ning Qingqing walk away. It was the first time he saw such emotions on her body. He obviously didn't see her face, but it was just a back view, which still made people feel as if something was oppressing his heart. Mr. Gu. The driver thought that Gu Yushan knew the girl next to him, but it could be seen that everyone had gone away, and Gu Yushan didn't move at all, so he couldn't help but remind him. Slow down. Gu Yushan said. Although the driver didn't know why, he saw Gu Yushan's gaze on the girl outside from the rear-view mirror. So, he restarted the car and followed Ning Qingqing, but slowed down. Ning Qingqing walked all the way and came to the door of a coffee shop. She sat down on an outdoor chair and ordered something casually. Looking out of the corner of her eye, Ning Qingqing saw a black car parked more than 10 meters away from her. She didn't feel the need to be followed, so she didn't bother to pay attention. In the car, Gu Yushan looked at Ning Qingqing from time to time while searching and operating on the phone. He saw Ning Qingqing pick up the phone. In front of the coffee booth, Ning Qingqing clicked on the chat record with Shen Haiqian while stirring the latte art. She has never deleted their chat records, and even if they change phones, they are all transferred over. She searched for keywords, and finally found the topic she was talking about a certain wedding dress brand. And the following is Shen Haiqian's answer: if you like wedding dresses, I'll order a set and send it to you later. It's not that we can wear it when we get married, but it's like an ordinary commodity, and we can buy it and wear it at home. Ning Ching Ching laughed at herself, hee, how much did she deceive herself before, that she always deliberately ignored this problem? She didn't look at the chat records anymore, but went directly to Moments. Just looking at it like this, I was a little surprised. I saw that in my circle of friends, all the content was posted by the same person. Keith, the company holds a ball game, and every time a goal is scored, 50 cash will be donated to the Hope Project. After the game is over, I congratulate Xiao Wang, you are the scoring champion, and congratulations for winning the MVP of the game. Xiao Wang replied, congratulations. Almost got fired. Keith, once upon a time there was a swordsman, he was very cold, and then, died of cold. Keith, when my younger brother was born, my family was very poor, so I named him Wang Ke. One day, a thief broke into the village head's house. When he saw me, he said to me, lend me your family Wang Ke to look at the door. Take the children with you. I was so annoyed that I quickly handed him the baby in the swaddle. Keith, Lao Zhang has a neighbor named Wang, and Lao Zhang's daughter-in-law is pregnant. What is the child's last name? Seeing this, Ning Ching Ching couldn't help but burst out laughing. What happened to Gu Yushan, who suddenly posted jokes in Moments? Did he stop being a boss and switch to a joke writer? The jokes he posted almost flooded the screen, some were cold jokes, and some were really funny. Ning Ching Ching looked down one by one, and unknowingly ate everything she ordered. When she was about to exit, she saw Gu Yushan shared a video, so she clicked in. The video is an animation. A stuttering man queues up to register his identity information. However, because of stuttering, when he reported his mobile phone number, he said that the 11-digit number was 27-digit. The registrant was dumbfounded. Do you have to drive a Rolls-Royce to be worthy of such a long mobile phone number? Ning Ching Ching couldn't help it this time. She sat on the seat and laughed, her shoulders kept shaking. I don't think this is very ladylike, but it is really funny, especially the accent of the staff inside is very funny, and the expressions of the people in the queue behind are quite rich. She watched it twice in a row, laughing the whole time. In the car, Gu Yushan looked at Ning King King's profile, and the corners of his lips couldn't help but curl up. Just at this time, the phone rang, and it was from Zhou Linghang. Brother Chen, are you okay on WeChat? Are you poisoned? Gu Yushan frowned, what do you mean? Zhou Linghang said, I knew it wasn't you. Your mobile phone was hacked by some idiot, and you kept posting funny jokes. Don't tell me, there are a few jokes that are quite funny, I can't help laughing. I'm afraid that idiot will start posting fraudulent information after preparing to post jokes. Gu Yushan's whole body became cold, and he said word by word, I wrote the joke myself. After all, he hung up the phone directly. His mobile phone was still on the WeChat Moments interface, so the comments and likes just added were refreshed again. Gu Yushan didn't intend to pay attention to it at first, but when he exited, he saw Ning King King's profile picture. Ning Ching Ching liked the 3 jokes he sent, and commented on the last video repost, so what is his mobile phone number? At the booth, Ning Ching Ching also got up to check out after posting the comments. Gu Yushan took the initiative to comment on her that day, and today she also reciprocated. In particular, today's bad mood was really cured because of the joke that Gu Yushan forwarded. Ning Ching Ching checked out and went to the company. And the black car finally left without a trace. After Ning Ching Ching returned to the company, she happened to have a rather urgent job to deal with, and it was already past 5 o'clock in the afternoon when she finished her work. She stretched her neck, picked up her phone and looked at Moments. She received a reply from Gu Yushan, only a string of numbers, which happened to be in 11-digit mobile phone number 1823-333-7777. Ning Ching Ching looked at the string of numbers suspiciously, and then watched the video again. She found that the number reported by the stuttering person in the video was clearly 4 and 6, and this one except the beginning 182, followed by repeated words, seemed to be a specially selected number. A guess welled up in Ning Qingqing's mind. Couldn't this be Gu Yushan's cell phone number? She was taken aback by her own thought, but quickly denied it. Gu Yushan is the only heir of the Gu family. How much is Gu's worth and how much is he worth? How could he easily give his number to a stranger? Even though she thought so, Ning Qingqing couldn't help stretching out her hand, and went to Baidu to search for a keyword Gu Yushan. Thus, the man's basic information was displayed, and his birth date was also displayed on it. Exactly, March 7th. The author has something to say. Brother Chen, you can't report your number to your wife without making a fuss. Save it, save it. It is said that the post should have been published a few days earlier, so that we can get the 520 or 521 breakup that everyone wants. Hey, but it doesn't matter, there will be everything in the copy. Everyone, wait for me, the breakup is really fast. Ning Qingqing pinched the phone number and felt as if she was pinching a hot potato. And just when she was hesitating whether to play dumb or something, a flash of inspiration suddenly appeared in her mind. Quickly copied the string of numbers, Ning Qingqing searched directly in WeChat Add Friends. After a while, a search result appeared on her screen. Keith. Ning Qingqing leaned back in her chair, her mind buzzing. And at this moment, the sound of high heels rang in the office area. Ning Qingqing raised her eyes, and saw SI Looking's manager Kenny brought over by the marketing manager. Manager Chen said, "Qingqing, this is Kenny. He is here to negotiate with you about Miss C's endorsement contract." Ning Qingqing nodded, "Okay, Mr. Kenny, let's go to the meeting room." There are already many people sitting in the meeting room, including the colleagues in charge of the public relations and marketing departments. They are basically in charge of the communication meeting, and Ning Qingqing needs to draw up the contract, so it is more of a recording work. When in doubt, she brings it up directly. However, colleagues in the marketing department who are usually very difficult to talk to, today, as long as the other party's request is not too excessive, they almost agree. Fortunately, it was reasonable to negotiate the price in the end, and it was a normal market price. If there is no doubt in the future, we will sort out the contract as soon as possible. The person in charge of the marketing department said, and said to Ning Qingqing, "Qingqing, this contract is rather urgent. Work hard today to finalize the first draft and send it to Kenny." Ning Qingqing nodded, "Okay." After the conference room was over, Ning Qingqing returned to her seat with the documents, not sure if she was sensitive, but she felt that several colleagues were looking at her with pity in their eyes. It's only been half a day, and the company has already spread the word? That's right, the whole company is watching the developments in the top office. Presumably, Shen's Haiqian and his son went downstairs with SI Looking at noon today. The front desk has already interpreted many versions. In the following time, Ning Qingqing calmed down to draw up the contract and seek a job in her position. She would not target work because of personal emotional reasons. After finishing her work, it was already dark outside. Ning Qingqing picked up her phone, only then did she see that there were 2 missed calls, both from Shen's Haiqian. She had muted the meeting at the time, and she was busy all the time and didn't pay attention to her mobile phone. After she found out that Shen's Haiqian missed the call, she sent her a voice message. There are no colleagues in the office area where Ning Qingqing lives, so she simply clicked to play. The voice of the airport broadcast came from Shen's Haiqian's end, and the man said as he walked, "Qingqing, there is something urgent about the Haiwan project. I will go on a business trip to deal with it. If everything goes well, I will come back the day after tomorrow." After finishing speaking, he added, "The temperature is going to cool down these 2 days, be careful not to wear too little for work, and bring a windbreaker to the company for preparation." After these 2 voices for more than 10 minutes, Shen's Haiqian said, "Are you busy? Don't delay dinner, I'm boarding the plane, and I'll contact you when I get there." After Ning Qingqing replied to his message, she realized that she was really hungry. She just ate a little casually at noon today, and now several hours have passed, and her stomach is already empty. After going through the contract again, Ning Qingqing sent it to Kenny, then shut down and got up. She rarely drives to work, because her apartment is near the subway station, and the company is in the CBD business district, and the subway is also nearby. Ning Qingqing came out of the building and was about to go to the subway station. When she passed the intersection, someone called her suddenly. Miss Ning. Si looking was wearing sunglasses and a mask, with Kenny beside her. Ning Qingqing stopped in her tracks and turned her eyes. Miss Si, what do you want me to do? The corners of Si looking's lips raised into a smile. I'm sorry for making you work overtime today because of my affairs, and I want to treat you to dinner to make amends. Ning Qingqing looked at the woman's sunglasses, because the surrounding light was already very dark, and she could only see the neon lights of the city in her lenses, but not the expression in her eyes. There is no need to make amends. Ning Qingqing said lightly, the responsibility lies. That's true. Si looking supported the mirror frame and stretched out her hand. We will have a lot of cooperation in the future, please take care of me. Ning Qingqing didn't reach out her hand. She didn't feel the need to take care of the emotions of people who didn't like her when she was off work. Miss Si, if you want to borrow my handshake to let me help you, then there's no need. You can ask your manager to help you. After all, it's so dark and wearing sunglasses really hinders your vision. Si looking didn't expect that Ning Qingqing would directly hate her, so she put away her smile and said in a low voice, our contract is so smooth, you should know why. Ning Qingqing turned around without saying a word. But Kenny added behind her, Miss Ning, do your own thing in the future, it's not yours, so you can't keep it. When Ning Qingqing heard this, her eyes turned completely cold. She turned around and looked at the two of them. You two, if I publish the audio of what you said to me today, what effect do you think will have? The expressions of the two of them changed, and they were suddenly a little uncertain whether Ning Qingqing was really recording. After all, when they were calling Ning Qingqing was still looking at her phone while walking. It's your business if you want him, but don't provoke me. Ning Qingqing locked Si looking's eyes. Do your part well, and I will repay you with the same words. If you want to grab something that doesn't belong to you, then be careful, you will lose money and people. After all, he turned and left. When entering the subway station, Ning Qingqing made a phone call. Brother Nai, check for me, how is the recent business status of Sijia Company in Daiken? Nai Yu is the special assistant of Ning Qingqing's mother. He is 10 years older than Ning Qingqing. He has always taken care of Ning Qingqing as a little sister, and has also guided a lot of work. He didn't ask Ning Qingqing what the Si family was doing, but directly agreed, okay, Qingqing, I will tell you after I check the situation. Well, thank you brother Nai. Ning Qingqing smiled, I'll treat you to dinner when I come back to the Imperial City. You're welcome. Nai Yu said, come over on a business trip another day, and I'll bring you the dim sum you like. Hanging up the phone, she got on the subway within 2 stops, which was a transfer station between 2 subway lines. Ning Qingqing didn't need to transfer, so she walked to the other side where she didn't need to open the door. But at this moment, a petite figure was squeezed over. Ning Qingqing and the other party were taken aback when they saw each other. Qiao Xiaomian said in surprise, honey, I actually met you. The two usually don't take the same route. Qiao Xiaomian happened to go to the client's side for a meeting today, so he walked this way. It's past 8 o'clock now, and she never expected to meet Ning Qingqing here. Seeing her best friend, Ning Qingqing's mood suddenly changed from cloudy to sunny, so it's fate. Qiao Xiaomian smiled and took her arm, letting Ning Qingqing, the tall man, hold the handle to stabilize the center of gravity of the two of them. We can meet each other, we must have a drink together to celebrate. Ning Qingqing looked at her, aren't you afraid you won't get up tomorrow? It's okay, the boss is not here these days, and the project I'm in charge of has just finished a phase today. Qiao Xiaomian said, why don't we go to your house? I'll go to your house to sleep at night. Okay. Ning Qingqing nodded, but you are not allowed to kick the quilt while sleeping. 20 minutes later, the two got off the subway together and went to Qing Bar near Ning Qingqing's house. The owner of this restaurant is also very good at cooking. Because of a coincidence, the other party suffered from acute appendicitis but couldn't get a taxi because of the snowstorm that day in the Imperial City. Ning Qingqing happened to be having a party with her client's daughter there, so she immediately drove her boss there. So whenever Ning Qingqing goes there, the boss will cook some private dishes for her to try. This is unique to her, no one else has it, and she can't order it at all. This is what Qiao Xiaomian has always wanted, so he wants to come to this house with Ning Qingqing almost every 2 months. The two sat down in the store, and there was a pianist playing softly at the bar. There are people sitting in 2s and 3s at the deck, drinking and talking in low voices. Qiao Xiaomian couldn't wait to use his chopsticks when the dishes fried by the boss came out. After a sip, he was full of praise, and then picked up the wine glass. Come on, honey, drink. Ning Qingqing had to go to work tomorrow, so she didn't dare to drink too much, but she didn't know if what happened today was still uncomfortable. After drinking a glass of cocktail, she felt a little dizzy. Qiao Xiaomian handed her the phone to look at. Look at the blind date my mother found for me, do you think it looks like a comedian? When Ning Qingqing heard the words, she suddenly thought of those jokes sent by Gu Yushan. She said, I really know one. He looks serious on the surface, but he may be a comedian. Ah! Qiao Xiaomian was curious, who is it? Do I know him? Ning Qingqing shook her head, I don't know each other, I also met by accident. As she spoke, she also told the funniest one she saw today. And at this moment, the door of the private room in the corridor behind them opened, and as soon as the man came out, he heard a familiar voice. He paused slightly, and saw the girl's face flushed from drinking. Ning Qingqing didn't notice it, and continued, there is another funnier one, I'll show it to you. She learned the man who stuttered to report his mobile phone number, and Qiao Xiaomian on the opposite side suddenly laughed, this is too talented. Come on, is that guy a handsome guy? When Gu Yushan heard this sentence, he tilted his body slightly in the direction of Ning Qingqing, as if the difference of a few centimeters could make him hear more clearly. Ning Qingqing subconsciously drank another glass of cocktail when she was telling the joke, and her mind was a little dull at the moment. She seemed to really think about it for a while to recall Gu Yushan's appearance, then she grinned, handsome, very handsome, and quite sweet. The author has something to say, Gu Yushan, my daughter-in-law praises me for being sweet Qingqing, what I praise is tiramisu. In the corner, the man froze in place when he heard the girl's drunken answer. Ning Qingqing's words handsome, very handsome, and quite sweet echoed in her ears. His Adam's apple rolled heavily, and his fingers fell unconsciously on his cheek. I didn't think much about looking in the mirror before, but now I really want to look in front of the mirror. The two girls in the booth area over there were already giggling non-stop, and seemed to be chatting about something else. There was a sesame seed on the corner of Ning Qingqing's mouth, which made Gu Yuchen want to go over and help her pick it off. But at this moment, a suspicious voice pulled back his thoughts, Brother Chen, why are you still here? When Zhou Linghang came out to go to the bathroom, he saw Gu Yushan standing there for a long time. Brother Chen, why are you standing here looking at the beauties? Zhou Linghang's voice was a little loud, Gu Yushan couldn't help frowning, turned around and went to the bathroom. Zhou Linghang chased after him, Brother Chen, what happened to you recently? Why is it so strange? Could it be that you like some girl? As he spoke, his eyes wandered around the booths in the lobby, but he didn't seem to find anything. Gu Yushan didn't say a word, and went straight to the bathroom. Zhou Linghang was half a step late, and the closed bathroom door almost slapped him in the face. He squeezed in with his hands, stood next to Gu Yushin, and couldn't help but look sideways. However, in the next second, he felt the air pressure drop suddenly, and he met Gu Yushin's warning eyes. "Brother Chen, I was wrong." He hastily raised his hands in surrender, not daring to look at or compare the size. The two returned to the private room together. Gu Yushin took a sip from the wine glass and raised his eyes. "The project will be based on the shareholding ratio we talked about just now." They all grew up in the same compound as Gu Yushin, and they were also the ones who welcomed Gu Yushin back then. Everyone nodded, no objection. And this time it is Gu Yushin who takes the lead. They only need to invest a part, and they will get dividends later. Everyone is happy. So after finishing the business, several people couldn't help but began to ask, "Brother Chen, what do you mean by moments today? You really posted that joke? When did Gu Yushin's circle of friends post messy things? It's like being hacked today." "Brother Chen, I'm curious, what is the phone number of that stuttering phone number?" a little guy asked. Gu Yushin immediately thought of the string of numbers he sent to Ning Qingqing. Did she know it was his? She should know, after all, she is very smart. So, did she save it? Why didn't you reply to the message? Do you think he has some purpose? Brother Chen, seeing the delicate expression on his face, Fa Xiao couldn't help shouting again, "Brother Chen, why did you have such a sloppy expression just now?" Seeing someone agreeing, Zhou Linghang immediately got excited. "Look, I'm not the only one who thinks this. Hey, why did Brother Chen have a sweet expression just now?" The word sweet successfully reminded Gu Yushin of Ning Qingqing's description. He lived to be 26 years old, and it was the first time he was described as sweet. So, he raised his eyelids and asked coolly, "How sweet?" A few people lost their teeth in shock, and then Zhou Linghang opened his mouth to explain, "It's just his mother's slutty expression that makes me want to fall in love just by looking at it." After finishing speaking, the person had already hid behind another faxiao. Gu Yushin didn't give him any response, but when he put down the glass of wine in his hand and leaned on the sofa, he didn't know what he thought of, and the tips of his ears were all red. The boys continued to drink, and the atmosphere became more and more exciting. I don't know who proposed to play games. When the second round started, the wine bottle just turned to Gu Yushin's direction. Brother Chen Fa Xiao met Gu Yushin's eyes, and instantly lost half of his aura, and changed the question temporarily, "You can either drink this full glass of wine now, or go out and find a young lady, and ask for her contact information. It's not fair, why is it so easy when you come to Brother Chen?" Zhou Linghang refused to accept it. He lost in the battle and was asked to stand upside down to eat sunflower seeds. He has not recovered yet. Do you think Brother Chen will go to ask for someone's phone number? Although he has it all at hand, but before Fa Xiao finished speaking, Gu Yushin had already stood up. He pushed open the door of the private room and went straight out. "Fuck, Brother Chen, are you serious?" Several people were excited immediately, and they all followed behind Gu Yushin. Ning Qingqing and Qiao Xiaomian had already eaten all the dishes on the table. Although both of them were a little dizzy, the singers singing in the Qing bar were their favorite style, so they were reluctant to leave. Just at this moment, an arm fell from the edge of the deck next to Ning Qingqing. The man was wearing a shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the forearm, revealing a black watch and a fair and powerful wrist. Ning Qingqing's eyes fell on the knuckle fingers for a few seconds, and she slowly raised her head. The owner of the arm leaned over, resting his weight on the edge of the deck, and locked his eyes on hers. "Ah!" Ning Qingqing was a little confused, but her words were faster than her dull brain, "Mr. Duan Zishao." Gu Yushin was caught off guard when he heard this title, and his original plan was disrupted, but he quickly calmed down and changed his words accordingly. "Well, so why didn't you reply to my comment?" Ning Qingqing blinked, and the confusion in her eyes dissipated after 2 seconds. Her eyes lit up. "You mean you want me to call back the phone number too?" Gu Yushin nodded, with no expression on his face, but only he knew that his heart was pounding against his chest crazily. My number is 159. Ning Qingqing was about to count, and seemed to remember something, quickly took out her phone, clicked on the reply that Gu Yushin gave her, and typed her phone number one by one. After clicking send, she raised her face and said, "It's been sent." "Yes." Gu Yushin looked at her screen, "Save my number." "Oh." Ning Qingqing nodded, and in the sight of the man, copied his phone number and added it to the address book. While typing the name, she yawned and followed her instinct with her fingers, "Tiramisu lover." Seeing this address, Gu Yushin's lips twitched. He said to her, "Go home early and be safe." Ning Qingqing yawned again and nodded, "Oh, good, bye." As she spoke, she pulled Jiao Xiaomian, who was still in a daze and wanted to tell Gu Yushin a joke, and walked out together. When the two reached the door, Gu Yushin followed directly. He walked behind them all the way until they entered the community. After confirming that the neighborhood was safe, he turned and left, returning to Kingba. "Brother Chen is awesome, did you just send someone else's girl home?" "Brother Chen, do you want your phone number? Did you tell that girl your number just now? You won't really like that girl. They didn't dare to get too close just now, so they didn't hear concrete dialogue. Didn't you see clearly? That girl is super beautiful. But why does she look familiar, as if she has seen it somewhere? No, she seems to be Shen's Haiqian's girlfriend? At a party, I saw Shen's Haiqian take her out together. I heard that they have been together since high school." Everyone couldn't help looking at Gu Yushin. There was no extra expression on Gu Yushin's face, but his eyes were cold. No one can say for sure if there is no marriage. The next day, Ning Qingqing arrived at the company by stepping on the commute. Fortunately, the alcohol she drank was not high in alcohol, so she didn't feel the headache after a hangover. As soon as I turned on the computer, I received an email from Kenny. There are several details that need to be revised with each other. Ning Qingqing spent the morning finalizing the contract with the other party, until Kenny finally agreed to all the terms. After submitting the contract to the legal manager for review, Ning Qingqing had no time to breathe a sigh of relief, because there were also many terms to be communicated and confirmed for a project discussed earlier. If it wasn't for S.I. Looking's emergency, it stands to reason that he should do that first. "Qingqing, the contract with Kevin is finalized, but you have to go to the other agency's agency." The colleague from the Public Relations Department sent over the sealed contract, because S.I. Looking is going to participate in a fashion event at 8 o'clock tonight, and will fly to Haikan tomorrow morning. If the courier delivery is too late for the contract, I can only work you. Ning Qingqing checked the time after hearing the words. It was already 5 o'clock in the afternoon. She asked, "What time did they leave the company for the event?" The colleague confirmed it, and said, "It is said to leave at 6:30, you should have time to go there now. But it will be the rush hour soon, so it is best to take the subway to avoid traffic jams." Ning Qingqing agreed, and after confirming that all the chapters of the contract were sealed, she packed it in a document bag and left the company. I took the subway all the way to the lobby of Looking Company. It was 6 in the afternoon. Ning Qingqing picked up her mobile phone and called Kenny. However, no one answered the first time, and the second time until the phone was about to hang up automatically, the other side finally answered, and the background sound was obviously outside, "Miss Ning." Ning Qingqing had a bad premonition in her heart. "Mr. Kenny, I'm here to give you the contract, and I'll take away your stamped one along the way." It was only then that Kenny seemed to remember this matter. "I'm sorry, Miss Ning, I'm all to blame for why I forgot. This is troublesome, we have already gone to the event site, and Luo Qing's private seal is with me, you come here now it's too late. Otherwise, you wait at the company, and I try to come back as early as possible." Ning Qingqing took a deep breath and suppressed all emotions. "Okay, I will leave the contract with the front desk lady of your company, and after you finish it, stamp it and send it to the inbox in the lobby of our company." Kenny obviously didn't expect her to do this. He hesitated for a few seconds and said, "Well, you wait for me in our company, I'll send Luoqing to the scene now, and I'll come back right away when she gets there." Ning Qingqing could only say, "Okay." However, Kenny's so-called immediately made her wait from 6 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock in the evening. The chapter was finally completed, and when Ning Qingqing took over the contract from Kenny, she met the man's condescending gaze. "Miss Ning, have you realized what I said to you that day?" Ning Qingqing knew what he meant, and Kenny was just hinting to her that the contract was signed so quickly by Shen Yiwen himself, and it was self-evident what the Shen family meant. "I have a deep understanding." Ning Qingqing looked directly into his eyes. "I will remember what happened today. In the future, she will find it back." When Ning Qingqing walked out of the building, she realized that it was raining heavily outside. She stood at the entrance of the building and opened the taxi hailing software, but no one took the order, whether it was a taxi or an online car hailing service. She increased the price of the red envelope, and finally someone took the order, but it was still 7 or 8 kilometers away from her. And when she looked at the map, this section of the road was all red, obviously heavily trafficked. Ning Qingqing looked at the subway station more than 100 meters away, gritted her teeth and rushed into the rain. But at this moment, a bright black car passed by Ning Qingqing's side, and because of its high speed, it brought up water all over the ground, and all of it splashed on Ning Qingqing's body. She turned her eyes suddenly, only to see the double flashing of the car on purpose, like a humiliation. With no time to vent, Ning Qingqing could only protect the craft paper bag in her hand from getting wet, and rushed all the way into the subway station. And at this moment, her cell phone rang, and it was a video chat sent by Shen's Haiqian. The author has something to say. Well, tomorrow Qingqing will directly ask Shen's Haiqian about the marriage, so the feelings of breaking up are still accumulating and will gradually explode. "Gu Yuchen, I got my daughter-in-law's phone number. My daughter-in-law is so sweet after drinking Qingqing, what happened last night? What the is a joker who loves to eat tiramisu? Don't know, delete it. Gu Yuchen." Thanks to the little angel of the irrigation nutrient solution, 1 bottle of luminous Chinese parasol. Ning Qingqing clicked to connect, and Shen's Haiqian's profile picture appeared over there. He should have just finished a meeting, and he was still wearing a formal suit with a meticulous tie, and a large floor-to-ceiling window in the background. Seeing the drops of water on Ning Qingqing's hair, Shen's Haiqian frowned. "Qingqing, why are you wet? Didn't you bring an umbrella when it rained?" Ning Qingqing nodded. "Suddenly it rained, and no one answered my taxi, so I took the subway." Shen's Haiqian's tone suddenly became serious. "Didn't I say that if I'm on a business trip, you can call my driver and ask him to pick you up?" Ning Qingqing straightened her hair in front of the video, and shook her head. "It's okay, it's very close, I'll be there in a few steps." Shen's Haiqian seemed to be still angry, and his tone was still serious. "Qingqing, the whole company knows that we are together, so you don't have to worry about what others say." When Ning Qingqing heard this sentence, she didn't know how to respond. Does Shen's Haiqian know what the company says about her now? Said that she lost power, said that what did not belong to her, even if she got it, she would have to return it sooner or later. Even sending out the contract today is actually the most obvious evidence of the company's changing wind direction. If it was in the past, she didn't need to deliver the contract. Even if she really wanted to deliver it, the marketing department would borrow their car from the legal side's car number. "Okay, I'll call your driver later." Ning Qingqing felt wet all over and felt uncomfortable. She just wanted to go home early, and don't get entangled in this topic. "Haiqian, when are you coming back?" When Shen's Haiqian heard Ning Qingqing ask him the date of his return, his brows relaxed immediately. "Sign the contract early tomorrow morning, and come back immediately after signing." The corner of his lips raised. "Qingqing, I miss you, do you miss me?" There will be a dinner party tomorrow afternoon, and Uncle Chen will take the lead. He came from Nanjing, and we will go there together when we get off work. Ning Qingqing also likes the uncle of Chen's technology, and always feels that she can learn a lot every time she chats with the other party, so she nodded, okay. Shen's Haiqian said, then go home quickly, send me a message when you get home, and remember to take a hot bath right away. Ning Qingqing responded, okay. She didn't go to the company. After all, it was already late, and the contract could be scanned and archived tomorrow, so she went straight home. When she got out of the subway, Ning Qingqing bought an umbrella to cover it from the rain, but when it rained, the temperature suddenly dropped several degrees. Most of the clothes on his body were dried on the road, but they were still a little damp, and when the wind blew, they were suddenly icy cold. All the way home, Ning Qingqing opened the craft paper bag first, and breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that the contract was not wet. She just turned on the water to take a bath, and after she sent Shen's Haiqian a good night before going to bed, Ning Qingqing clicked into WeChat. So, she saw Gu Yushan's funny jokes again. Memories of that night at the Qing bar suddenly came to mind. Ning Qingqing recalled the hazy picture at that time, and quickly switched to the address book. So she saw that there was actually a number lying in her address book: Tan Zishao, who loves to eat tiramisu. Ah, what was she doing at that time? Did Gu Yushan see this note? Ning Qingqing couldn't look directly at her, especially since she seemed to have sent someone her number. She switched back to WeChat, deliberating whether to like and comment on Gu Yushan, but after she finished reading those jokes, the corners of her lips twitched. There are several stocks, it's just too funny. When she watched it for the second time, she finally couldn't help laughing out loud. Anyway, on her own bed, Ning Qingqing even rolled around in bed laughing, and then liked all the jokes Gu Yushan sent. Afterwards, she muted her phone and fell into a sweet sleep. That night, Gu Yushan came out of the shower and checked his WeChat again. This was the 11th time he checked it. A reminder of 9 comments on WeChat came out, and he quickly clicked in, and then found that Ning Qingqing liked all the jokes that Ning Qingqing sent him this evening, and none of them fell. He also only discovered today that WeChat moments can be set to be visible in groups. At this moment, there is only one person in the group on his screen. The group name is a heart-shaped show bag. The next day, Ning Qingqing entered the contract and sorted out other unfinished contracts in her hands. It was only then that she realized that since New Year's Day, she hadn't taken a day off except for statutory holidays. The project contract in hand is gradually coming to an end, and the new project is still in the investigation stage. It is estimated that even if it starts, it will take a month. Ning Qingqing looked at the folder in front of her, and suddenly had a subtle feeling it's like a hint, suggesting that she can actually end everything as soon as it is said. During lunch, my colleague Wang Jian looked at Ning Qingqing's slightly red cheeks and asked in confusion, "Did Qingqing blush today?" "No." Ning Qingqing turned her sore neck, and suddenly found that she had been busy all morning, and there was a string in her mind trying to finish the work in hand as soon as possible. Now she relaxed, as if her whole body was a little sore. "Did you catch a cold? I can't hear your voice right," Wang Jian said, reaching out to touch Ning Qingqing's forehead. "Ah, I seem to have a fever." Ning Qingqing also realized that she was not feeling well, and she didn't have much appetite for eating, so she ate some casually, and the takeaway medicine she ordered arrived. "Qingqing, why don't you ask for leave in the afternoon?" Wang Jian helped her pour a cup of hot water. "Our subsequent contracts are not so urgent." Ning Qingqing drank the medicine. "It's okay, I want to end it soon." Her birthday is only a week away, and she doesn't know if she will still be in Shen's after her birthday. Wang Qi didn't know her plan, but said with a smile, "Then lie down and rest for a while." Alas, the proprietresses of other people's houses are all instructing people to work, and you are like a model worker. Ning Qingqing smiled and said nothing. After lying down and taking a nap, she continued to sort out the contract code and classify the original archived files, and mark the time of all key nodes above for the ongoing contract. Unknowingly, it was past 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when the man's footsteps approached. Ning Qingqing didn't look up, thinking it was a colleague, until she heard someone call Mr. Shen. Only then did she raise her head and look at Shen's Haiqian, who had already arrived in front of her desk. The man put his suit on his arms casually, and approached Ning Qingqing's screen directly. "What is my little bee doing?" Ning Qingqing saved the previous Excel statistical table below, and said, "Shall we go to the dinner now?" Shen's Haiqian nodded, but still asked in doubt, "It's the middle of the month, and you need to sort out the report." Ning Qingqing's heart skipped a beat, but there was no emotion on her face. She shook her head, "I'm afraid it will be more troublesome to tidy up." Shen's Haiqian didn't think much. He stood up and said, "Let's go. Uncle Chen is still some distance from our side, it takes 40 minutes to drive there." Ning Qingqing nodded, packed her things and got up. "However, I didn't feel anything when I was sitting just now. Now that I relax my mind and stand up, I suddenly feel dizzy." Her center of gravity was unstable, and she subconsciously grabbed something beside her. And Shen's Haiqian had already quickly caught her, wrapped her waist with one hand, and held her arm with the other. Through a layer of shirt material, Shen's Haiqian could feel the warmth of Ning Qingqing's arm. He frowned suddenly, continued to clasp Ning Qingqing's waist with one hand, and supported the back of her head with the other. Pressing down, Shen's Haiqian's forehead touched Ning Qingqing's forehead to feel the warmth. "Why is it so hot?" He straightened up. "Qingqing, you have a fever, you must go to the hospital immediately." After all, in the eyes of everyone, Shen's Haiqian hooked Ning Qingqing's bag on his forearm, immediately picked her up horizontally, and strode out. All the people present covered their mouths as they watched this scene. All kinds of guesses surged in their hearts. Mr. Shen seems to care a lot about his wife, who said that Ning Qingqing would lose power when SI looking came. It seems that there is still a lot of suspense about the position of the proprietress. Shen's Haiqian hugged Ning Qingqing and took the special elevator all the way down. Ning Qingqing was a little uncomfortable. "Just now I stood up suddenly, maybe hypoglycemia, I measured the temperature myself, 38.2 degrees is not too high, you put me down quickly." Shen's Haiqian didn't let go. Seeing that he was almost on the first floor, he warned her, "Be quiet, or I'll kiss you in front of the company's front desk." Ning Qingqing didn't dare to move at once. At this moment, she seemed to recall that Shen's Haiqian had threatened her like that when she was in school. There was a burst of sourness in my heart, and after the sourness, there was desolation. Why is it like this now? She obviously liked to talk to him about everything before, but now many times, various emotions fermented in her heart, but she didn't have the urge to speak out. "You can just ask the driver to take me to the hospital, and don't let people wait over there," Ning Qingqing said. Shen's Haiqian's jawline tightened. "Ning Qingqing, can you try saying something again?" Knowing that she couldn't hold him back, Ning Qingqing remained calm and let Shen's Haiqian continue the princess hug and carried her out of the lobby. All the way, out of the corner of her eye, she could see the shocked expression on the receptionist's face, and she didn't even need to think about it. It is estimated that after today, the colleagues in the company will return to their previous attitude towards her. This is reality, it is human nature. After getting in the car, Shen's Haiqian called Uncle Chen. "Uncle Chen is really sorry, our Qingqing suddenly developed a high fever, I will send her to the hospital now. I can't pass today, I will go to Nanjing to apologize to you in person." "Haha, thank you Uncle Chen for your concern, Qingqing also misses you very much, I will take her to Nanjing to find you later." After hanging up the phone, Shen's Haiqian pressed Ning Qingqing's head on his shoulder. "Have a good rest, and I'll call you when I get to the hospital." The distance between the two was so close that Ning Qingqing could even see Shen's Haiqian's distinct eyelashes and the pair of deep eyes under the eyelashes. At this moment, the eyes are full of tenderness, the same as before, and it seems that they have never changed. Perhaps because of the gentleness at the moment, or perhaps because of the fragility after being ill, the emotions that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time finally burst. She raised her head, met Shen Zhiqian's gaze, and asked word by word, "Zhiqian, will we get married? Have you thought about when?" The author has something to say. Well, Qing Qing has really used up all her reserve and courage when a girl proposed such a thing on her own initiative. Thanks for watching, please subscribe. Shen Zhiqian was taken aback by this question, almost instinctively. When he thought of his own family affairs, his heart felt agitated. But the shoulder was still looking at him. Because of the fever, her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were watery. He was so beautiful that he couldn't move his eyes. He remembered that when he was a sophomore in high school 9 years ago, he immediately saw the girl who had transferred to their school in her first year of high school. The girl is from the south, and her Mandarin is pretty good, but she still doesn't know the difference between N and L. Sometimes she gets it wrong with her flat tongue, and sometimes she gets it wrong with H and F. The first time they talked, it was Ning Qingqing who asked him for directions. The girl was wearing a high ponytail, wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans, which couldn't be more simple, but she still had a beauty washed away. Obviously still very immature, but still has a faint strength of character. She stood in front of him and looked up at him, with a soft tone unique to Southern girls. "Senior, is there a music classroom on the 13th floor of Building No. 4? There are several pronunciations of si and chi in it." She was afraid that she might make a mistake, so she spoke very slowly, with a very cute appearance. Shen Zhiqian didn't know what was going on with him at the time, so he said as soon as his brain got hot, "That music classroom is hard to find, I'll take you there." On the way, he asked her what grade she was in, and her name. After that, he always ran into her intentionally or unintentionally, and after getting a little familiar with her, he took the initiative to teach her to correct her accent. Even though these things have passed for a long time, every time I think of Shen Zhiqian, I can't help being moved. He thought, maybe this is love at first sight. Goodbye, and he has never liked a girl so much. "Qing Qing, you need to rest more when you have a fever." Shen Zhiqian rubbed Ning Qingqing's hair and said, "Don't think about other things first, we'll talk about it when you recover from the illness." Listening to the man's words, Ning Qingqing's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. She actually wanted to ask if the Shen family had fallen in love with Si looking, so he couldn't promise her anything. But I also felt that asking such a question made me appear jealous and pathetic. She doesn't want to be that kind of person. Then when I get better. Ning Qingqing continued to look at Shen Zhiqian, and said, "My birthday is still a week away, can you give me an answer then? This is very important to me." Shen Zhiqian nodded, and put her head on his shoulder again. "Okay, now you sleep first." Ning Qingqing responded and closed her eyes. There was some traffic jam at the entrance of the company, and it was hard to drive out of the congested road section. Shen Zhiqian felt that his shoulder was not moving, and probably fell asleep. He turned his head slightly, looking down at Ning Qingqing's side face. His Adam's apple slipped, and his voice was very low. "Qing Qing, in fact, love is enough for two people to be together. Marriage doesn't guarantee anything. What I can guarantee is that I will love you forever." On her shoulders, Ning Qingqing's eyelashes trembled slightly, and a sigh sounded from the bottom of her heart. She closed her eyes without any response. Soon after arriving at the hospital, the driver stopped the car, walked around to the back seat and opened the door. Shen Zhiqian hugged Ning Qingqing and got out of the car. "Qing Qing, we're at the hospital." "Yet." Ning Qingqing pretended to just wake up, and opened her eyelids, but Shen Zhiqian didn't give her a chance to go by herself, and carried her directly to the hospital. Ning Qingqing was a little helpless, but she was really weak and couldn't break free, so she could only let Shen Zhiqian carry her to the outpatient clinic. And at this moment, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a fairly familiar figure, who seemed to be Gu Yushan. And just when she was about to take a closer look, the man turned his eyes. Ning Qingqing's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly buried her face in Shen Haiqian's arms. She didn't know why she was hiding. Maybe she had lost face in front of Gu Yuchen the day before yesterday, and she didn't want to continue to lose face. At the same time, Zhou Linghang bumped into Gu Yuchen's arm. That seems to be Ning Qingqing. Since that day, they also knew that Shen Haiqian's girlfriend was Ning Qingqing, and their brother Chen, who had never been close to women, actually fell in love with someone else's girlfriend. Coupled with the complicated relationship between Shen Haiqian and Gu Yuchen, the two often compete in projects, so this love triangle seems to be particularly sweet. Gu Yuchen came to visit today because he had a minor illness for surgery. He saw Shen Haiqian at a glance, and then he saw the girl in Shen Haiqian's arms. Although it was only for a moment, he also recognized that it was Ning Qingqing. When Shen Haiqian came to the hospital with Ning Qingqing in his arms, it was self-evident who was sick. Gu Yuchen was about to leave after seeing his friends, but he turned around and walked to the hospital. Behind him, Zhou Linghang hurriedly caught up, "Brother Chen, even if we want to grab a girl, we can't do it in front of her boyfriend. We have to go to the corner first, not the door." Gu Yuchen ignored Zhou Linghang's earnest words, but went straight back to the outpatient hall. This is a high-end private hospital, so there is no need to queue up after entering, and there are not many people at the outpatient clinic. Gu Yuchen saw Ning Qingqing sitting in the rest area at a glance. Shen Haiqian paid the money for the blood draw, and Ning Qingqing sat on the chair. After he took the order, the man wanted to hug her, so she went to the blood test room by herself first. "Brother Chen, we're a bit conspicuous." Zhou Linghang deliberately stood in front of Gu Yuchen, for fear that Shen Haiqian would see his family's brother Chen who coveted his girlfriend at a glance. Fortunately, Gu Yuchen didn't continue to move forward, but stood where he was, and took out his mobile phone. He directly sent a message to Ning Qingqing, "I was in the hospital just now, I think I saw you." After Ning Qingqing drew her blood, she went to the rest area with Shen Haiqian. She felt the phone vibrate. She picked it up and found that it was Gu Yuchen who sent it. She sighed in her heart, alas, it was still seen, what a shame. She replied, "Well, I have a cold and a fever, come and have a look." Gu Yuchen breathed a sigh of relief after seeing it. "Is the temperature high? Did you catch a cold yesterday when you got off work?" Ning Qingqing replied, "Well, it should be because I didn't pay attention to the change of weather last night. I don't need to go to the hospital for 38 degrees. My boyfriend insisted on asking me to check." When Gu Yuchen saw the second half of the sentence, his eyes darkened. Zhou Linghang on the side kept looking at his expression, and didn't know how to persuade him when he saw this. He could only say, "Brother Chen, you also saw that he has a boyfriend. Even if we are worried, it really is not our turn." "N." Gu Yuchen responded lightly, walked to the side of the waiting area and sat down on a seat. "You go back first, I'll sit here for a while." "Where is Zhou Linghang willing to go?" But knowing that Gu Yuchen wanted to be alone, he nodded, "Okay, then I'll go to Old Qin Tower to chat with him for a while, and call me when you leave." "Yes." Gu Yuchen nodded. The results of the blood test over there finally came out. Ning Qingqing had a viral cold. The doctor suggested that she go home and rest for 2 days after hanging the water, and take medicine on time. The doctor gave her an infusion, and the infusion area here is a separate room where she can sleep. Ning Qingqing lay down, and Shen Haiqian stood by her side. He was obviously busy, and in just a short while, he answered 2 or 3 work calls. "Qingqing, you go to bed first, I'll go outside and make a few calls." Shen Haiqian walked out to the hall in fear of disturbing Ning Qingqing's rest. Ning Qingqing nodded. She lay on the bed and deliberately kept herself from sleeping, lest she would turn black and white upside down and be unable to fall asleep at night. And at this moment, there was a movement at the door, and she turned her head. "The call is over." Before he finished speaking, he realized that the person at the door was Gu Yushan. Yushi asked suspiciously, "Why are you here?" Gu Yushan didn't answer this question, but asked, "Is it a common cold or a virus?" Ning Qingqing said, "Viral, I guess when the resistance is weak, the virus took advantage of it." "Well, my friend is infusing next to you," Gu Yushan explained. His eyes fell on Ning Qingqing's cheek, and he said after a while, "You have a good rest, I'm leaving." Ning Qingqing nodded. As soon as Gu Yushan walked to the door, he saw Shen's Haiqian walking over. The man was still holding the mobile phone in his hand, and whispered to the other end of the phone, "I'm sorry to wait a moment, I have something to do here suddenly, I will call you back later." After that, he frowned and looked at Gu Yushan who was standing at the door of Ning Qingqing's ward. His eyes were cold. "Why are you here?" After all, the person has already walked past Gu Yushan quickly, came to Ning Qingqing's bedside in the ward, and asked, "Qingqing, are you all right?" Ning Qingqing shook her head. This was the first time for her to see Shen's Haiqian and Gu Yushan face to face, and she finally felt the tension between the two. She suddenly had an idea, why did Gu Yushan always appear around her after returning to China? It was a coincidence once or twice, and even she began to wonder if there were too many times. And the other party returned her mobile phone number for no reason and asked for her number. Could it be that because he wanted to deal with Shen's Haiqian, he started from her? Suspicion flashed in her eyes, and she looked at Gu Yushan at the door. Almost just a look, Gu Yushan guessed what Ning Qingqing was thinking. "Deep in my heart, there was an inexplicable sadness, as if I was stabbed by something sharp, and felt a little stinging. Sorry, I went to the wrong room," he said lightly. After all, his gaze has quickly withdrawn from Ning Qingqing. Shen's Haiqian's eyes were sharp, and he stood in front of Ning Qingqing, as if he was guarding against some scourge. And just at this moment, Gu Yushan's cell phone rang, and he swiped to answer it. "Are you in the ward?" "Okay, I'll be there right away." "After all, leave directly." Shen's Haiqian heard that he didn't look like acting, but he still watched the other party leave, so he turned to Ning Qingqing and said, "Qingqing, didn't he say anything when he came in just now?" Ning Qingqing shook her head. He should just go wrong. She herself was inexplicably relieved. It seemed that she was thinking too much. Although she didn't have much contact with Gu Yushan, she didn't feel that the other party was as scheming and ruthless as the rumors said. But no matter what, the relationship between her and Shen's Haiqian may have entered the countdown, and by that time, the grievances between Shen's Haiqian and Gu Yushan will have nothing to do with her. The author has something to say. "Brother Chen, one day, I will reverse today's identity and declare my sovereignty."